following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Let's go, baby.
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on the break.
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Wednesday, March 24th, 2021, Season 16, Episode number 102. Welcome to the latest edition of The Break. We are live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Got Nick, Amber, and Dave with me. And we're a week into free agency now. Cowboys have made some moves. They've signed 5 players. They've lost 5 players. They re-signed a few of their own. And we're going to spend the show talking about what the Cowboys have done so far in free agency and getting these guys' opinions on what they think. Let's start first with just the big overall. And the big question, how do you think the Cowboys have done from the standpoint of their approach to free agency this year? Was there anything that stood out to you, or was it pretty much kind of what you expected? Let's start with you, Nick.
It's what I expected. It's what we all expected, honestly. And they made a splash when they signed Dak Prescott, and then not just Dak, but the other guys at that position. They have high profile players at a lot of positions. That's their strategy. They re-sign their own. They don't have a lot, and they've been bargain shopping. They did it last year, didn't work. I mean, they've done it several years, and then they're doing it this year. They're trying to get bargains, and it's all they really have to do because they don't have a lot of money.
Amber.
I guess it's fine right now. It's just so hard to tell because you never know how these guys are really going to turn out once they get here. And even during training camp, we don't know until the season actually starts. So it's hard to tell right now. I am, I guess, a little curious to see what they do with these safeties that are supposed to be visiting with them. So at least that's nice to hear that they are getting some safeties in the building to look at. But just overall, nothing that we didn't expect, really. We've been talking about it here since forever. This is kind of what they do. But at least they're making some moves on defense specifically. So that's a good positive.
Dave.
If you're talking about what stands out, it's just, it might as well be a handbook at this point. They signed a veteran offensive tackle whose resume probably doesn't wow you. They made some bargain signings on the defensive line to kind of, air quote, shore that thing up. And then they're bargain hunting with name guys who, for a variety of reasons, don't have the resume to be more expensive. Keanu Neal is a great player. He's missed 2 seasons due to injury. It's probably a big part of the reason why he was able to be had so cheaply. If they wind up signing Malik Hooker or DeMonte Casey, it'll be for a similar reason. I think they're both coming off of season-ending injuries. So, they re-signed a couple of their key guys. Bringing Jordan Lewis back, I think, is a good bargain signing. But again, this is, to Nick's point, this is probably year 7 in a row that it's looked fairly similar to this and hasn't always worked out very well or at all. There's a couple of these that I'm optimistic about, but at this point, that's about it. All you can do is hope that this will turn out better than the last.
And we're going to get into that, and we're going to talk specifically about each of these deals that the Cowboys have made. There's another question I have for you guys. Are there deals, as you look across the NFL and you see players that have been signed, are there deals that you look at and you're like, man, I really wish the Cowboys would have done that? Like, for the money and for the player, were there deals you were like, the Cowboys probably could have made that work, and I think it would have been a good move for them? Let's start with you, Nick.
I can't think of one, honestly, and I haven't maybe looked that closely, but I just think that they're in a different boat. You see a lot of these 1 and 2 year deals. Obviously, players aren't trying to get locked up into knowing money. I
haven't seen a long-term deal. Like, the longest I think I've seen is maybe 3 years.
3-year deal. Yeah, and that's probably one that could be voided down to 2, when you get to when the salary cap starts increasing back in the next couple of years. So when you do deals like that, you have to have some cap. You have to have cap space to do that because you just don't have any. You can't, they only had 17 or 18 million going into this thing, so you can't do a deal like that. Now, I haven't seen one specifically. Dave might have a better answer, or Amber.
I'd way rather have Dalvin Tomlinson for 2 years, $22 million than like half of the guys they've signed, for sure. Yeah, and that's not expensive. I mean, I know they don't have a lot of money, but you can add voidable years. That's the new vogue thing to do in the NFL, or sign him and 3 fewer guys and make it work. If that's all it took to get him out of New York, that was shocking to me. And maybe that's because the salary cap is so much lower, but I would have done that deal in a heartbeat. I'm looking to see if anything else really jumps out at me. That was the one that really, I'm not going to say it upset me, but I was like, that's all it costs to get that good of a defensive tackle? Mm-hmm. Which this is maybe a little bit unfair, but I've always said it's not so much the signings, but the creative ways that teams get aggressive. If you tell me that I could have had Michael Brockers for a future 7th round pick, bring it on, and we'll structure his contract. We'll figure it out. Absolutely. And like I said, that might not be fair because they traded Brockers to Detroit. Detroit's new GM used to work for the Rams. That's maybe a little bit of a sweetheart situation, but pick up those phones, man. Call around. There's a cap crunch. Teams have had to make difficult decisions all over the league, and if you're proactive about it, you can wind up getting guys like Michael Brockers for a 7th round pick. So there were a few bargain deals that I would have liked to have seen them go after, for sure.
Did you see anything, Amber, that kind of piqued your interest?
Well, just in general, and I'm sure this might be different for you guys because you guys know more people around the league and everything, but to me, it's always the same story. It's like, I just always wish, and I know that they signed Dak and all that, but I just wish that someone that I kind of knew more of would be signed through free agency, because I'm always having to investigate, okay, who's this guy? What has he done? Where was he at? What's his deal? And it's always someone that I don't really know much about. So it's not really fun or exciting when you are getting a name thrown your way saying, oh, we signed this guy, but you never heard of, really. But one guy that I will mention that did stand out to me was LP Ladouceur. What they did with him, not re-signing him and getting, what's the guy's name from the Rams?
Jake McQuaid.
Yeah, that was totally surprising to me. And I get the relationship there between John Fassel and like special teams and the Rams and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, it's like, why? LP has been here for so long. He's never done anything bad. He doesn't necessarily have a smile on his face when he walks around, but he's the guy that's fine on the field. He doesn't cause problems on the field, so
it's funny how everybody kind of chuckled when you said that. It's kind of, go ahead.
He's just, he ain't got,
he's kind of surly.
He's an interesting guy.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But no, when you talk about a guy on the field that has done his job for so many years and been here for so long, that to me was definitely surprising not to hear the Cowboys signing him at least on another 1-year deal.
Yeah. It kind of surprised me a little bit too, but I just refused to get myself worked up over a long snapper.
Thank you for saying that.
I
was like, am I crazy? Because eight snaps a game, that's what you're talking about. And Jake McQuaid's been to 2 Pro Bowls. I know LP's been here forever, but I saw it happen, and I was like, oh, it's kind of weird, but that's Fossil's guy. All right, on to the next one.
Yeah,
that's basically that was my thought process.
It's kind of like you get a new job and they let you bring your secretary. Okay, fine. That's fine.
Whatever you want, man.
Like it's fine. It's
makes
not a
you
big
feel
deal.
better.
Okay, so real quick before we move on to actually going through some of these different contracts.
Are they even called that anymore?
Do what?
Secretaries?
They don't? Did I say something wrong?
No, what are they called? Are they
administrative assistants.
Administrative assistants.
Administrative assistants. My bad. I got caught.
But
in
it's funny.
80.
I know. But it's funny. It's like you can make that argument both ways, though. Yeah. You can say, okay, I'm not going to get worked up. It's a long snapper. Okay, but go back to what she said. What's the problem? Why? Because he's a little surly now and again. Maybe he didn't say something. Maybe he kind of talked back into me. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't see eye to eye with Fossil. He's a long snapper, and he's one of the best ones. So this guy, McQuaid, he's probably going to make more money. And guess what? He has to be better than 0 snaps ever. I mean, that's I'm just saying.
It sounds like he is, though. It sounds like he's really good long snapper.
Yeah,
so
and you know what? Go back and watch every high school, college, pro football game. We watch a lot of football. Most of us, watch a lot of football. I'm just saying. I'm talking about Friday, Saturday.
Some more
all
than
of it.
others,
Yeah, right.
yes.
But how many bad snaps do you see?
Well, I will tell you
Depends
this
on which
Nick.
level of football you're
Even
watching.
high
Well, it
school,
does-
in college, you don't see them a ton.
But Nick, let's go
I
back. Let's
think
go
I
back
disagree
to
with
when
that.
they were making that transition from Hellestray.
Yeah.
That was a little bit of a rocky time. Like you had some snaps
No,
in there that just kind of weren't on point.
It was, and you're going to
And so,
have some.
yeah.
I know.
but when you get a good one, you don't worry about it because it doesn't
Right.
happen, right? Bad ones don't happen.
Yeah, there's 32 out there.
Yeah.
32 jobs, and most of them are pretty good. I'm kind of surprised that they haven't turned it over fewer than this.
I kind of agree.
So
yeah.
all I'm saying is that if there was anything going on that was like, I'm getting rid of him. I mean, you could say, well, no big deal, it's a long snapper, but they could have also said, okay, he's a long snapper. He does his job and all that. So it is curious. It's curious a little bit.
Yeah, I guess my point
He's
is
40 though. He turned 40.
my point is that if it's one or the other and they're about the same as far as their abilities, and you happen to feel more comfortable with one or the other, and again, we're making a lot of we're assuming a lot here, but let's assume that the special teams coach Fossil just felt more comfortable with the guy that he had with the Rams. Then if I'm the organization and the contract's up on the other guy anyway, I mean, is it really that big a deal? Fine, bring in the guy you feel comfortable with. As long as he's good, then I don't really have a problem with it one way or the other. And so that's why, for me, I just kind of was like, I get your point, Amber. I was kind of a little like my eyebrow raised, like, really? Why would they just make this swap? But at the end of the day, it was kind of like, well, this guy seems like he's just as good, so okay, fine, not that big a deal.
If he was an undecorated, unexperienced player, I would probably be making a bigger deal of this. But he's been in the league for 10 years in his own right. He's been to 2 Pro Bowls. If that's who John Fossil wants
How old
doing
is
it, I don't know. But he's been in the league since 2011. So
These guys played a long time.
early
Long
30s.
snappers play a ton, like a long time.
Is he
Probably
younger
34,
than-
35. Probably, I would say
He's
around
33.
33. Okay.
Yeah, so he could probably play another 10 years, maybe. Who
I
knows?
think one year that Fossil was there, I think all 3 Rams specialists made the Pro Bowl. I think Zerline,
I believe so
Hecker,
as well.
and then McQuaid. But I've told this to Dave. I mean, it seems like it's been 2 years since that happened. I mean, it's only been a week or so. But, I mean, you know who wins off this? Witten.
J.C. Witts
Wow.
gets to hold that record, baby.
255 career
Okay.
games played. LP was at 253, chomping away on that cookie, ready to get him. And
Not so fast, my friend.
Casey Witten, like old Lee Corso. Not so fast.
But it could be interesting here too that obviously we wouldn't know until we talked to Fossil and probably had to talk to him off the record to get this. But are there things, and we saw it this last year, he's unconventional. We know that. He does some unconventional things. Are there things that from a snapping standpoint that maybe there are some nuances that he looks at and he's like, I just don't think LP does that in the same way this other guys does it. Recognizes certain things.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're trying to run fakes and stuff, snapping the ball to a different person might be a little different. I don't know. I don't know a lot about the art of long snapping, but all I'm saying is I think right now we're making a lot of assumptions. I would love to talk to the special teams coach and find out what are the differences that you look at in a
Right.
long snapper, because there may be some differences that we just aren't talking about.
Yeah.
Feel free to drag me. Like, pull this show out of the receipts in October when he botches a snap. But I can't believe we're still talking.
Why are you calling this on?
I'm just.
we don't want to.
I just can't. First of all, superstitions aren't real. Second of all, I can't believe we dedicated like 8 minutes to the long snapper. That's
Sorry, guys.
Amber did that.
another. Oh,
You guys carried it.
as long as
Were
we're
you right?
as long as we're talking, I thought of another one. Anthony Harris to Philadelphia, 1 year, $5 million. I'd
Yeah.
have done that deal. Which I won't mind as much if they come away with one of these guys that's visiting this week. And it's draft bias for sure, but Malik Hooker was a hell of a college safety, and he's shown that he can do it at a pretty high level when he's healthy. That would excite me. But Anthony Harris had 6 interceptions in 2019. He's played, he doesn't get hurt. He hasn't missed many games over the last 3-4 years. 1 year, $5 million. I would have done that for sure.
So of those guys, let's switch to that. Of the guys that they have in here right now, do you have a favorite? Do you have a guy that you would like them to sign between Hooker and Kazee, or like which one do you like most?
Kazee,
Go ahead.
I mean,
Sorry.
Kazee has been a ball hawk. I mean, he's got 7 interceptions one year and 3 another. So you like that. What you don't like is that, Zeke didn't have a lot of highlights last year. Ezekiel Elliott. One of them was he trucked over Kazee in the end zone and almost, he hurt him. Remember the touchdown against the Falcons where, he took him. He just got up like last week from that.
He was already in Dallas, so they were like, why don't we bring you in?
Here, so.
No, we do need to do a medical on you, but.
So from a safety standpoint, you don't love that part of it.
That's why Keanu Neal's here to do that.
That's exactly. I was just
Keanu Neal is here to hit Zeke. DeMonte, Kazee.
Stay 30 yards behind the line of scrimmage.
You stay back there, and if Zeke gets through to you, what are you going to do?
Which one's coming off the Achilles?
Kazee.
And what is Hooker coming off of?
I've looked this up a million times, and I always forget.
And Keanu Neal had a Achilles.
He's had 2 back-to-back.
Yeah.
He had an ACL and a Achilles, right?
Yes, but he did play.
He played last year.
He was not hurt last year.
Right.
Yes, Hooker's coming off an Achilles from week 2 of last season.
So both the safeties they have in today are both coming off Achilles.
And that's why they're here. Like, visits are not a thing in the NFL anymore unless they, the Cowboys want to take a look and see, how you recovering, how you moving, what's your timetable.
That's looking at them. Physicals too. So, that used to scare me more. The Achilles injury, especially for a defensive back. I think Barry Church had it 2012 or 13. The Cowboys actually signed him. He was having a pretty good career, 2 or 3 years, and he gets an Achilles injury, and the Cowboys signed him immediately and said 4 or 5 year deal, cheap probably, but they made a commitment to him, and he it was a good player. It was a bargain. He was a bargain then, but I don't think you saw any effects of the Achilles for him. He was never a guy that could run super fast for a safety. I hope Barry's not. Barry was
I'll call him.
I don't think he would argue with that.
He was an
I think he'd be like, that's fair.
all MAC player from Toledo 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
Freshman to senior, wasn't drafted. Because I think he ran a 4.7, 4.8, but he could play.
Yeah.
And and I think the Achilles injury really didn't affect him from that standpoint. So if they come back and I'd like to, either one of them would help. And I'm curious where they all fit into this because Donovan Wilson can play. He's got a spot somewhere, and so I'm curious to see. Neal. There's been talk of a linebacker role for him. So
let's assume for a second that they sign one of these 2 guys. You can take whichever choice you like of the 2, and then you combine that with Keanu Neal. Do you feel like the Cowboys may have something finally at safety between the combination that gets them farther ahead than where they've been over the last several years, or do you think that still is a huge area of weakness for them going into the draft?
I think I will feel optimistic. Yeah, but I guarantee you, if one of them signs, it'll be a 1 or 2 year deal. Prove it, see what we can get. So it won't be long term fixed, and I will be optimistic that the safety position has the potential to be better than it has in a long, long time, but I'm not going to bank on it. Like, I would absolutely still draft a safety in the top 100 if it fell that way. Wouldn't even think twice about it. Yeah. Even if he's mainly a special teamer as a rookie, I don't care. So I would feel optimistic, but not confident.
Yep. I mean, you're not going to take one at number 10. I don't believe there is one that you would take that high.
I've not heard of one. I don't study it every day like Dave, but there is.
I mean, I don't even know if you trade down, let's say, to a 15 or 16, that would still be a reach to take a safety there. So
I mean, we at the end of the day, you never fully know. Like, the biggest example I can think of is the Raiders drafted Cleveland Farrell in the top 5 a couple years ago. Nobody saw that coming. Like, all these teams have different grades on these guys, but conventional wisdom says the best safety in the draft is probably TCU's Trevon Moehrig, and I would be shocked if he gets drafted before if he gets drafted in the top 25, I would be pretty surprised.
Yeah. So once you get out of the first round, then you're talking about second round and on, and just about every position other than quarterback you would consider at that. I mean, even running back if you wanted to. I mean, you could consider all positions in the second round. And we saw what they did with C.D. Lamb, which, by the way, this morning at 6:30 in the morning, I wake up or whatever time it was, and I started thinking of that
Caleb?
Yeah, what did he do last year?
Nothing.
He really didn't.
He's a rotational guy. He had 1 sack.
So,
which is exactly
he on the trajectory of the Cowboys defensive end pick from a few years ago. That ended up on another team.
I'm not going to pretend that I watched I don't think I watched a snap of Jaguars football last year, but that's what we said Chason would be all last year. Like, people don't get it twisted. That's what we said. We were like, if you draft this guy, you're doing it as a long-term project and hoping he gets better. He ain't going to be anything more than a rotational guy as a rookie, and that's why you should draft CeeDee Lamb. Like, it's very obvious which one is better. Yeah. So,
all right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to dive into these players that the Cowboys did sign and also some of the guys that they lost and get some opinions on where the guys they signed may fit and how much of a loss some of those guys that they lost will be. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with United Ag and Turf. Before you can park yourself in front of the game, park yourself in a John Deere and power through your chores. Our Land Run package is a 1025R, 25 horsepower tractor with a loader, rotary cutter, and a box blade for $229 a month. And the price you see is the price you'll pay. No surprises. So don't miss another kickoff.
Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com. Offer ends February 1st, 2021. Restrictions apply. See dealer for details.
Now let's get to work.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way.
Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team.
Get yours today at shop.dallascowboys.com or at stetson.com.
Back to the break.
Monster Jam returns to AT&T Stadium this weekend. Don't miss the adrenaline-charged family entertainment featuring the most famous trucks in the world. Get your tickets before they're gone at SeatGeek.com.
Welcome back. It is the second segment of The Break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. It's Nick and Dave and Amber, and we're talking Cowboys football. We're talking about free agency. We're about a week in at this point. And so let's go through some of these additions that the Cowboys have made. I want you guys to talk to me. I'll throw out a name, and I want you guys to give me your thoughts on the signing and where you think they fit. Because there are some interesting ones in here, particularly the first one that we're going to get to about where they fit and how the Cowboys may use them. Let's start with safety Keanu Neal. He was originally a first-round pick, 17th overall pick in 2016 of the Falcons. He signed a one-year, $4 million deal. $3 million of that is guaranteed. What do you think of the signing, and where does he fit?
Well, I think that he's a guy that's going to probably play closer to the line of scrimmage than back. He's had 3 healthy years. He gets 100 tackles every time in those 3 years. And so, there's been some talk that he's going to play some linebacker. This scheme's going to be a little bit different. I think that he'll, right now we're calling him a safety. That's what everybody that's been on record to talk about it has said nothing different than that, because there hasn't been anyone talking about it. So we call him a safety. But I think he could play closer to the line of scrimmage.
I think people get too caught up in trying to label. I think he's going to do a lot of stuff. I think it's probably their best signing so far. I'm not trying to pump him up as the answer to all of their defensive woes, but this is a great intersection of talented player who's still young. He's only 25. He's been to a Pro Bowl. He's had some injuries, but to Nick's point, when he's been healthy, he's been productive. He's not your center fielder. He's not that guy, but he's a thumper. He's going to tackle everybody. I would play him at strong safety, close to the line. Don't freak out about Donovan Wilson because he can move down. Like, no, he's not going to play will linebacker all the time, but he can play nickel linebacker. Wouldn't be shocked if he's your linebacker in dime packages just to get some speed on the field. That was
so you're saying maybe have basically what would be 3 safeties with him being a linebacker.
Yeah, sure. And we've seen, I know it was Rod, not Dan Quinn, but we've seen them play 3 safeties back at times as well. They did that with J.J. Wilcox when he was still here. Jeff Heath kind of got his break as that 3rd safety, so he could do that. I won't be surprised at all if he play like him and Leighton could play nickel linebacker in obvious passing situations, because that was Jalen's biggest problem arguably last year. So yeah, absolutely, that's the thing. And that's great. You can find 3 or 4 different roles for him. So like I said, I'm not trying to, I don't know if he's Jamal Adams, but he could be that type of guy, and I think that's the type of signing I like to see them do, for sure.
I do have a doubt, or more of a question for you guys in general. As I look at the whole list of free agent guys that they've signed, and I know it's very common throughout the league for players to have some type of versatility where they can switch around from place to place, But a lot of these guys, like we just talked about Neal, and then these other defensive players that it's whether tackle or defensive end, like where are you at? And I get it, we don't like to label or whatever, and it depends on the scheme and all that. But I can't help but always think about Tyrone Crawford. And I know he was a key guy because you need guys like that. But in general, I mean, is it more of a problem or a concern, or like to have so many guys that have that kind of versatility? Or is it better to have a guy that has a specific role assigned and focused on a specific place on the field / scheme? Do you guys see that? Like, I don't know. Do you see the versatility as a pro, or could that actually come back and bite them in the butt type of stuff?
I feel like you've been talking about that for years.
Yeah. In this particular case, I don't think it's a major issue because, like, for Tyrone Crawford, he could play inside, he could play outside. But, like, in the offseason, he's got to figure out, do I weigh 290? Do I need to weigh 265, 270? Am I going to play end or am I going to play tackle? And that's a big difference. But I think for Neal, I think what Dave is saying about how they're going to play him is first and second down, maybe over here. Third down, closer to the line of scrimmage. I think he understands the scheme. So I think they know exactly how they're going to play him. We may not know, and so we look at it like, is he a linebacker? Is he safety? I think he's, Darren Woodson played linebacker on nickel. Kenny Gant, the Shark, he played linebacker in nickel. I mean, it's just how you want to play fast guys down in a situation like that. So he's going to play, I think, at the same body level that he was, and he's a veteran. He understands what he's doing. So it's a great question, but I don't think as far as a safety who might play some linebacker, I don't think it's that big a difference.
And the rest of the guys, I mean, I know we're about to go through them, each of them, but just in general, a general idea. Yeah. You think that they go into the season kind of having a role for each guy? Or kind of, because we hear it prior to the season started, like press conferences at the draft that we hear like Stephen Jones be like, well, if we need him at safety or corner, we can switch him around.
Here's the thing you got to factor in. Here's what we don't know yet. Is this going to be a 4-3 or a hybrid 4-3-3-4, right? If this is going to be the kind of defense where they're going to morph based upon kind of the situation, sometimes they'll have 4 down linemen, sometimes they will morph into a 3-4. If they're going to do that, they need some guys that are flexible. Like for example, if you bring in a guy, Terrell Basham, if you bring him in, he is that type of stand-up. He's been that traditional stand-up outside linebacker that you would think can also slide down and become a hand-on-the-ground defensive end, right? But you're going to need those kind of guys that can do either. Randy Gregory would be another guy that's like that. So you would need that sort of versatility if you're going to be that kind of defense. And those defenses, and there's some around the league that do that kind of morph between different fronts based upon what the situation is in the game and based upon the opponent. So I do think that has to be factored in, and we don't know that yet. Nobody in this room has had a chance to talk to Dan Quinn, so we don't know what his thoughts are. And even when we do talk to him, I'm not sure that he's going to be as forthright with that. We might not know that until we get to training camp or until we get to the season. So all I'm saying is, with regards to versatility, I think we have to wait and learn more about that. And if they are going to be a hybrid defense, then they're going to need versatile guys. Yeah. Everybody's going to have to be versatile and be able to move around based upon the front that they're playing.
I guess that's the aspect that I keep forgetting about, that we do have a new guy, Dan Quinn, and we don't know how he thinks. But I guess my mentality and judgment goes more based on what we've seen in the past and what the things that we've heard in the past. It's like, okay, but I do forget, okay, we have not heard from Dan Quinn and we have no idea what his plan is. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I think Brent Urban is going to be the Tyrone Crawford of this team, because I mean he's played some defensive end, he's played some tackle, he's played in a 3-4 and in a 4-3. So and as it was, I have a good friend who's a big time Bears fan, and he told me, good solid player, nothing flashy, but he's dependable and he'll get the job.
Are they talking about Crawford?
They were talking about.
I know.
It was funny,
but that's my point.
He sent that to me about Urban, and I said, "That's funny. I could say the exact same thing about Andy Dalton, who you just signed." He was like, "Yeah, the money's different, so it's not. That's not what you want for your quarterback. Dependable, flashy, gonna get the job done for the most part. Nothing great."
All right. I will say this though too about Keanu Neal. If you remember back to that team that Atlanta put on the field that went to the Super Bowl, that defense was pretty good that year, and he was one of the leaders of that defense. He was one of the better players on that defense, and I think that's the part that makes me a little bit optimistic of what he can be here now. Again, that was years ago, but at that time they had that defense was flying around, and there were a lot of people that thought that, of course, their offense was really, really good, but a lot of people thought that they were on their way to making that defense in the mold of what they had in Seattle. And things just kind of fell apart on him. A lot of that had to do with injuries, but certainly he has that kind of ability, and we'll see if he can recreate that here with the Cowboys. One other question I have for you guys on Keanu Neal: are you at all concerned because he is the same type of player to some degree as Wilson, and as you said, Nick, we believe that Donovan Wilson can play. Are you all concerned about now basically him having to take a step back with regards to his time on the field, because we would project, I would think right now, most of us probably project that Keanu Neal making $4 million this year is going to be your starter. Are you at all concerned that Wilson's going to have to take a step back and not necessarily get as many snaps as he would get otherwise?
Clinton Dix was making 3.5, so
great point.
Just saying. And I like the Keanu Neal.
So you're going to say he's going to get cut?
With the Cowboys' track record of adding quality free agents, should I just assume?
You're saying it's a 50-50 shot.
We'll see. That's not even fair. I'm just saying I don't trust that this is going to work, at least not completely. They don't deserve that benefit of the doubt, in my opinion. I think Keanu Neal will make the team and start and be pretty good.
So with that being said, are you concerned about Wilson and his development?
No. They play 1,100 snaps a season. There's more than enough to go around. I hesitate to say this because there's no way to say it without sounding like a hater. Donovan Wilson looked great last year. I'm not convinced that he's not so good that I'm like, well, he's gotta be on the field. You gotta no, go to training camp and somebody will emerge and it'll be fine. That's basically how I feel about it.
Most of the time, those guys can play together. I mean, most safeties are interchangeable and you can play them that way.
These guys, neither one of them is a center fielder type, so I wouldn't think you're going to put them on the field. If there's only two safeties on the field, I wouldn't think you're going to play them together, right? Or am I missing something?
What about how much time do teams spend in nickel and dime these days? So you can move Keanu Neal down in a nickel role and have Donovan Wilson be your strong safety. And that's kind of, to go back to your point, AG, is in my mind, in the modern NFL, and this is simplistic, but the only positions that are fixed on the back end are the boundary corners. You need two guys out there covering the two main wide receivers. Everything else is just sort of nebulous. The Patriots are a perfect example of that. They never look the same. They got guys wandering all over the place. Somebody's up, somebody's down.
Yeah.
So there's a million roles to go around, and if you can play football, you'll be on the field.
He had 2 interceptions last year, Wilson, and I believe both of them, if I remember correctly, he was kind of playing in center field and kind of made a play. One of the ball bounced to him. Mm-hmm. But with this team and interceptions, I mean, the ball just doesn't bounce to a lot of players, so it happens. He also made a nice play on a ball for an interception I guess the 49ers game where he made a play. So I think he can. I don't think he's your ball hawk free safety.
But you think he could in situations?
I think he could. I think he needs to be on the field. I think he's going to continue to get better. I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, it's just funny. It's like, here we are. We're talking about. You think we could have too many safeties?
That's a great point. And again,
that's laughable. Isn't it?
I have a high opinion of Donovan Wilson, so I'm like reluctant to say this, but it's kind. All through last week, people were like, "What do you mean we're not adding new talent? This defense was awful, the worst ever. They're so bad." And then Donovan Wilson comes up in conversation. It's like, well, he's amazing. You can't mess with Donovan Wilson's playing time. And I think he's a promising young player, but I'm not as ready to anoint him as some people are.
All right, let's jump to offensive tackle Ty Nsekhe. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Is that Nsekhe? Mm-hmm. Correct. All right, so he was an undrafted player back in 2012 with the Indianapolis Colts. Cowboys signed him to a 1-year, $1.75 million deal, $500,000 of that guaranteed. He will be the guy that is projected, I think we all project him to be your swing tackle because Cam Irving has now left the building. What do you think of the signing? Where does he fit? And is it good enough as your swing tackle in a situation, because this is the key, where both your starting tackles are coming off season-ending injuries last year?
I hope they don't think so. That's my answer, I guess. I mean, it's fine. That's what they do every year. And for the most part, these guys haven't been great, but they haven't been terrible. Cam Fleming handled it okay at times. Irving, when he got a chance later in the season, he was okay. But especially like 1-year deal for a 35-year-old player who I think Rob pointed this out, that he's got 2 more starts in his career than Terrence Steele made last year. So
it wasn't really an upgrade at all. It's like the same thing.
Yeah, that's what we're talking. And I will say, I love this guy's story. It's awesome. Undrafted player in 2009, kicked around the Arena League for like 4 years, had a cup of coffee in the NFL, got sent back to the Arena League, went to this Canadian Football League, and then finally played well enough to stick around Washington for a few years. Yeah. And this is his 3rd free agent deal. So
Perfect.
So much respect for the grind. And he's turned it into like a viable career. But if a good offensive tackle comes up on the board next month during the draft in the first, second, third, fourth, whatever round, and they're like, I think we're good because we got Ty. I'm like, no, come on, man. That's not good team building.
Yeah, he was in a good situation in Washington because their guys were hurt all the time. Mm-hmm. It seemed like every time the Cowboys were going to face them, it was like, well, their line's beat up, and they got to play this guy. He can't even pronounce his name. He has to play right tackle. I mean, he didn't play a lot of starts, but he played a lot of games because Washington always had injuries on that offensive line. So, that I think I agree with Dave. I mean, he'd be a good guy to have. I'm not saying he's a training camp body because that's a lot of money for that, but
that's how I see it. When I heard about tackle, I'm like, ooh, yeah, a tackle, we need one. And then I started reading about him. I'm like, oh, okay, this just sounds more like a body to have in there.
Here's the thing that I've said for 15 years about this team that needs to be better at, and all teams need to be good from the top to the bottom. You need to be good from 1 to 53. 1 to 10, the Cowboys are just as good as anybody almost, but 1 to 53, when there's injuries, you got to have some depth. You can't get there without making moves like this. It's just that's part of it. It's the moves like Nsekhe and Urban and Basham, I think, might be a little bit more than that. But, like if they sign a guy today, I forgot his name. They bring in the other safety, the third guy.
Jaron Kearse.
I mean, he's not, that's like your Kennedy type guy that they tried to get last year. You have to fill the roster with players that, that can play, and they're not all going to be projected Pro Bowlers.
And I will say this, too. I just sort of talked down on Ty Nsekhe, but... And I think they'll draft a guy. Maybe not with the 10th overall pick, but I bet they'll draft a tackle next month somewhere. And so if you take a draft pick, Terrence Steele has made 14 starts. You can talk trash about him all you want, but that's valuable. Brandon Knight's made 20. That's 4 pretty decent options behind one of the best duos in football if they're healthy. So all of that told, I feel really good about the position overall. Mm-hmm. I just don't know if Ty Nsekhe himself is the answer to that problem.
So with that being said, are you guys on board with the route that the Cowboys seem to be taking, or do you think they should have gone the route of paying Cam Irving basically what he got? He got a 2-year deal for $10 million, $8 guaranteed. You would not do that. Okay.
Absolutely not. I think they're in line for like a 6th round comp pick, and Cam Irving played like 5 games last year.
He's been hurt a lot.
No offense to the Carolina Panthers, but that one kind of made my eyebrows perk up a little bit.
Honestly, I've always wondered this. The coaching staff here made the conscious choice, because this was before he was hurt. They made the conscious choice that they seemed to like the other young tackles over Cam Irving, and that to me spoke volumes. And so when I saw this deal, it made me think either they grossly misevaluated him, or the Panthers are grossly misevaluating him, but somebody grossly misevaluated this guy, right?
There's just only so many capable offensive tackles in the NFL right now. Like it's you got to do it. It's like quarterbacks. Like I bet the Panthers were like, I can't believe we're doing this, but it's better than whatever's already here. Yeah.
Well, who got signed first, Nsekhe or
Cam Irving was like one of the first things that happened on Monday. Yeah,
so they could have gotten Nsekhe.
Maybe, yeah, good for them.
I wonder if he's going to be their starter. I wonder if he's penciled in as their starter. Cam Irving is.
The difference is that Cam Irving, first of all, you can pronounce his name. Second of all, he was a first-round pick. Third, he's not 35 years old. I mean, this guy's been around. It wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't make the team for the Cowboys.
Nsekhe?
Yeah, that won't surprise me.
That wouldn't shock me.
With what Dave said, drafting a guy, and heck, they might even get another, Terrence Steele in the undrafted free agent. You start putting these guys together, and it all start with the 2 starters. If they're looking good and feeling good, then you're like, maybe. He's not making a lot of money, so it's a career backup. It might be cheaper to keep. I don't know.
I don't think there's a single guy they signed that they're married to for the money. So
we're just going with the puns here on the marriage, right?
Sorry.
All right, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we're going to talk about a couple other guys the Cowboys signed: Carlos Watkins, Brent Urban, Terrell Basham. Talk about where they fit and how great these signings are for the Cowboys. When we come back, this is DallasCowboys.com radio.
Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Want to show your Texas and team pride too? You can. By purchasing your own Stetson, you can look just like how the flag guys do on field at every home game. Stetson hats, the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys, and your favorite football team.
Get yours today at shop.dallascowboys.com or at stetson.com.
Honey, big news.
Gary, are you okay?
Oh, I'm not Gary anymore. I'm Jackie Flash.
What?
See, I want the latest smartphone, but the best deals are only for new customers. So, to get a new customer deal, I changed my name to Jackie Flash.
Okay, but the best smartphone deals at AT&T are for everyone, new and existing customers.
That's huge. Then guess who's getting a deal?
Is it Jackie Flash?
Jackie Flash.
It's not complicated. At AT&T, our best smartphone deals are for everyone. Restrictions apply. Visit att.com for details.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
We're back with a tasty treat that's sweeping airwaves and taste buds. It's new Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda. Let's take a listen.
Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda's here. A new combo that's music to my ears, okay. Let's play. Cream Soda and Dr. Pepper time. Pour it in a glass of ice.
Ah, music to my ears and mouth. New Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda.
A delicious duet.
Back to the break.
Hey, Cowboy fans, you can show your football pride at the Pro Shop, the official store of Cowboys Nation. You can score classics like your favorite player jerseys, tees, hats, plus exclusive collections and unique accessories with the options from Nike, New Era, and many other brands. The Pro Shop has more Cowboys gear than anyone in the game. Visit your local Dallas Cowboys Pro Shop or online shop.dallascowboys.com.
Welcome back. Final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're talking about free agency. I want to package these three guys together because they seem like they all kind of came in pretty quick together. I know they all came in to sign together. But Carlos Watkins was a defensive tackle, fourth-round pick of the Houston Texans back in 2017. Cowboys signed him to a one-year, $1.75 million deal, $400,000 guaranteed. Brent Irving, defensive end, he was a third-round pick of the Baltimore Ravens back in 2014, has played with Tennessee and Chicago since then. He also was signed to a one-year deal, $1.75 million, although all of his $1.75 is guaranteed. And then you had defensive end Terrell Basham, who was a third-round pick of the Jets back in 2017. Colts?
He was traded to the Jets. Or no, he was released and claimed by the Jets. I'm sorry.
Got it. Sorry. And then he was signed to a two-year deal, $6.5 million. Obviously, his money's very different than the other two. Talk to me about what the Cowboys may have been getting with these three players and maybe how they all fit into this defense that obviously we've all talked about needs a ton of help.
I to Nick's point from the last segment, Urban is intriguing, I think, and I take this with a grain of salt, but Pro Football Focus graded him as one of the 5 highest graded run defenders in the league. So this is,
bring it on.
This is a guy who's here.
Stay with PFF when we're talking about Carlos Watkins, too.
I know. I know.
Is that a foreshadowing?
With all due respect to Carlos Watkins, that's a body, Amber. I don't know. That's nothing that I've read or seen or heard leads me to believe that anybody should be like super duper excited about that. He could probably crack the rotation.
I think he was last in their of defensive
in the
tackles.
entire league
for run stoppers or something like that. Yeah.
Well, we can relate to that. We have ways to relate to that.
Yeah, they can actually, and that's why they signed Urban. Maybe not so much Watkins, but trying to beef up the worst run defense in the NFL.
Well, good thing they already got some defensive tackles.
This is, they sure do. I think this is peak Cowboys, is to just throw cheap contracts at a problem spot to say, all right, we now have 5 defensive tackles: Tristan Hill, Neville Gallimore, Antoine Woods, these 2 new guys. If we can't find one in the draft, we're not screwed, but we don't have to be married to any of these guys. Like I said, Urban, at least statistically, you see things there that you're like, okay, this isn't Ndamukong Suh, but this guy could come in and do some dirty work and be a real benefit. I don't know so much about Watkins. Basham is interesting just because he was a Cowboys target in 2017. There were 2 schools of thought. They went after their pass rusher in the first round and then dealt with the secondary later. They could have gone the other way, and I think Basham would have been one of their picks on day 2 if that had been the case. Mm-hmm. So maybe they draft Kevin King with the 28th overall pick or whatever, and then they could have drafted Basham later on. They obviously didn't go that way. But so the interest was there. This was a top 100 draft pick, a guy that they liked a lot. He's had moments, but I would say for a guy drafted in the top 100, I'd say, the first 4 years of his career, probably you would call that a disappointment. But get him in here and see what he can do. And at the very worst, he's a rotational guy.
What was the question? I mean, I agree with all that.
Again, we're just trying to figure out what you think of the signings, how they fit.
I think those 3 guys, I feel like they've all have some 3-4 background. So
which is an interesting note,
right?
It's an interesting note,
especially Basham. And that's the thing. We're just trying to figure out, like, for graphics on social media, is he a defensive end? Is he a linebacker? What are we calling Urban? What are we calling these guys? And those are good questions because in that scheme they were this. For everything we've been told, it's still a 4-3 scheme here, but it might not be. It might be a little bit more in the hybrid role. So I think that they've got some position flex guys. And like you said earlier in the show, that's important if your scheme is going to be flexible. If that's the case, then certainly these players have to be.
Right, and we won't know that for a while. Probably won't know that till training camp or the season.
Yeah,
it is interesting. I'm pretty sure the Colts were running a 4-3 when they drafted Basham, but the Jets are 3-4 all the way, and so he was a stand-up linebacker, so he's got that in his toolkit, I guess. I think I can pull that up. I think he had his most sacks last year for the Jets.
Yeah,
I believe. Which it was like, it was 3.5.
Yeah.
Not saying he had 12 sacks or anything like that, but he was successful in that scheme, at least to a degree. So.
How does it work again when it comes to these types of contract? I know that ideally, if free agent guys, you want to make sure they're good enough for you to keep, at least for that season. But just in general, let's say they were to draft a guy that he's looking pretty good, and then this other free agent guy is not looking that good and is just kind of taking up space. Example, yes. How does it work as far as like money wise? Do you lose a lot of money? Or like, does that affect you?
To Derek's point, it depends on the guarantees. Yep. What did you say was Watkins' guarantees?
Watkins $400,000. Which they're good.
That's pennies by NFL
That's Dave's money. Like they can drop that anytime.
Is it? Can it be?
They can drop that anytime.
Hey, I ain't sniffing.
You can do a lot of things with $400,000, right?
Over so many years, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know specifically. I saw Todd Archer broke down Keanu's contract. There's not a lot here that would like prohibit them from getting rid of any of these guys if they needed to. And
you made the point with HaHa, the amount that they had that was guaranteed for him.
You don't want to do that. That's a goof. If you give a guy $2 or $3 million guaranteed and wind up cutting him before he plays a game for you, that's not good. But you can still do it, and that's also among many reasons why they're probably not going to use every dime of cap space. Is you got to sign your draft class, you got to have money to sign guys later in the season, and also maybe eat a little bit of money if you need to get rid of some people.
Yeah. And I think it's worth noting that these guys from the Falcons, Dan Quinn was the head coach and ran their defense for the most part, and Joe Witt, their secondary coach, who's now the secondary coach for the Cowboys. Yes, you have ties to these players. HaHa was drafted by Mike McCarthy in Green Bay. He had ties. They brought him in. He also cut him, and I don't think anybody in the league picked him up.
I didn't hear about it.
He spent a little bit of time on Buffalo's practice squad, but I don't think he actually played last year.
Okay, so I think we always make a big point of that. Well, he knows him there, so they're probably going to re-sign him. Well, yeah, what if they hated each other? Mm-hmm. What if he was like, I hate this guy, I'm never going to play for... You know what I mean? Just because you have ties doesn't necessarily mean it. So, obviously, it was good ties with Atlanta, but, not to the point where you can't cut him if it's not working out.
Keanu Neal has $3 million of his contract guaranteed, which I would be surprised. But I don't... If they just absolutely feel like they have to, I think they could. It was a while ago at this point, but they remember Jasper Brinkley. Mm-hmm. He was like $2.5-3 million guaranteed, and they cut him at the end of camp too.
That's
so
right.
It's doable, not ideal, but doable.
I'll say this,
but he's also a different caliber player in my opinion.
I want to be clear. I think Keanu Neal is going to be good.
Me too.
Just covering every angle.
Right. The Cowboys will say this. Those guys that are the athletic trainers over there, Jim Maurer, Britt Brown, those guys. They think that the second year after your injury is a really big year. That's when you're going to jump. You come back.
Any injury? Are you talking specifically leg injuries, Achilles injuries, ACL?
Reconstructive surgeries like that for Achilles or definitely for ACLs. That first year you're getting back, you're getting your legs back in you. But the second year is when you're kind of back to normal. And if that is the case with Keanu Neal, I think that's probably one of the reasons why they're like, hey, he came back last year. Let's see what he does.
If that was half of him last year,
right?
I feel very happy with what I think. If he's going to be better than that this year, I feel very happy with that sign.
And you got to look at other guys too. Connor Williams. I know it's a different side of the ball, but I'm just saying that's another guy that last year he got back from injury. This year, contract year, big thing. He actually said the other day his goal is the Pro Bowl.
Okay.
Team goal first. Let's get back to where we need to be. Yeah. But individually, he thinks
send all 5.
He can get there
or 4.
Send them. Who are the 5?
Good question.
Tyron.
Who will be the final five by the time we're at the end of the season is probably a better question.
I don't like that question.
It's a fair question.
I don't like that question.
All right. So let's real quick before we end the show. I did want to talk a little bit about a couple of the guys that the Cowboys lost, and particularly Cheeto Oozier. He signed with the Cincinnati Bengals. He got a 3-year, $22 million deal. $7.5 million of that is guaranteed. How much of a loss is that for Dallas?
Right now, it's fairly substantial, but I don't think it will be by the time this team is done being put together. I feel very confident that they're going to spend a big pick on a cornerback. If it's not Patrick Surtain, it'll be pick 44, whatever. Like they'll draft a guy who's capable.
First 2 rounds.
Day one starter. That's maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. And so eventually I think they'll be fine. But right now, yeah, like I if they had to play with what they have right now, I wouldn't feel great about it.
Yep. I agree. And I thought, Cheeto was a solid player. I don't think, I've heard people say that he was a bust.
I don't think he's a bust.
I think you can be in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I think a second-round player that played, he gets 1 interception a year, with that money that he got there. I mean, Cincinnati fans will probably, they probably won't love it because he won't get a lot of interceptions unless the scheme changes for him, but he wasn't really that type of guy. But he was solid. He got good speed.
We have seen some guys thrive after they leave the Cowboys.
Oh, sure.
So you never know.
Yeah. It definitely happens.
I think Brandon Carr had like 3 picks in the first 6 weeks of his first season in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah.
Just
fans
imagine.
are just like, oh, gosh.
Yeah, Cheeto's going to have like 4 picks at Halloween. Kill me. No, I agree, though. Like,
He was good.
No,
I mean,
he was an average player, I think. And I think for a second-round pick, if you get the number of starts the Cowboys got out of him, you don't feel like you wasted that pick. You may have wanted more, but you don't feel like you wasted that pick.
It's fair to have wanted more from a guy drafted 60th overall, but I can't call that disappointing or a bust. He got 4 seasons worth of starts. He made a few plays. And he goes, like, it works out for everybody. Like, the Cowboys didn't waste their pick. He got paid. Good for everybody. They'll get a comp pick for him. There's no reason to feel bad about anything that happened there.
And that's that comp pick was in play. That's why you never thought ever he was going to come back because, during the middle of the season, he had a hamstring injury that took, 9 weeks to come back from. And I think there were people in the building that were like, what's going on here?
You weren't one of them.
Huh?
You weren't one of them.
Well, I was.
You know about hamstrings. You were not one of them.
I actually was one of them. I was asking about it a little bit, like, why isn't he coming back?
I thought you, of all people, would be like, I get hamstrings.
Not a hamstring. Mine's a calf, and I still have.
It's not the same thing?
Still, I think difference in recovery time between us
difference
and
in athletic ability.
Yeah,
that's a
little bit speed.
A little bit.
Anyways,
let's hope so.
I think that everybody knew right there. I think everybody knew right there that he wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
So, and he knew it, and the Cowboys. There was talk about releasing him
during the season.
Yeah. When it was like, okay, what's going on here? I called it the hamstring of death. I mean, like, what's happening? He came back to get, and he doesn't want to put bad tape out there of him.
Yeah.
So he's
not in the
contract year. So, but that comp pick was always sitting there like, we're not going to cut him. Why would we cut this guy? And then he goes and signs somewhere else, and we don't get the comp pick for him. So, yeah.
But at least they signed Jordan Lewis, and I'm excited about that because he's a guy, and I think we all kind of thought that might happen, that Cheeto leaves and then they might be able to kind of retain Jordan Lewis. So that's exciting because he is a guy out of those two. Although we've seen a lot more from Cheeto as far as playing time, the time that Jordan Lewis has played, I mean, he has shown ability, and he's a guy that does not freaking give up. He has that kind of competitiveness in him. So in the way that they were using him last year towards the end of the year, that was exciting to see. So that's at least something to look forward to.
And one of the things that's interesting about that is you look at Jordan's deal. Jordan got a 3-year deal, same as Cheeto. He got a $13.5 million deal, which is less than the $22 million that Cheeto got, but the guaranteed money was right there about the same. Cheeto got $7.5, Jordan got $7.75 million guaranteed. So to me, it kind of signaled that the Cowboys thought of them as comparable players. It was just, I think they opted that Jordan may have been a better fit, and certainly a better fit when you talk about what he can do in the slot. That's where it makes sense for them.
I'm curious about this because I think we would all agree Jordan didn't get a lot of opportunity. I mean, he started a lot last year, mainly because Cheeto was hurt and Anthony Brown had injury problems. I wonder, for him to be willing to re-up, was there a conversation like, we see you doing this, like maybe we'll give you more of an opportunity to play outside, you can do this, that, and the other? Or are they like, yeah, we're just going to bury you on the depth chart again when we draft Patrick Surtain? And if that's the case...
But if he's their nickel guy... They play nickel most of the time. So.
Sure. Well, Anthony Brown plays in the slot too. Like I wonder about that. Like if they draft a cornerback highly, and I think they will, then there's an odd man out.
Well, let's follow the money.
Yeah,
you look at the money, and I think it means Anthony Brown's probably going to be your guy that's going to be sitting more than he's going to be out there playing. Is the way I look at it. I'll always look at the money when you come to those kind of situations.
He's on a similar contract to Jordan.
Is it?
Yeah, he signed 3 years, $15 million last offseason.
Was guaranteed.
Got to remember this though.
I mean, and he's a year into it too. Yeah. Like I hear you.
Yeah, you got to remember this. And someone told me this the other day. No defensive backs coach or defensive coordinator for the Cowboys has ever liked Jordan Lewis at the start. You know, it's like, well, let's see how he goes. He's undecided.
Kind of slight.
Doesn't fit what we're looking for. So, yes, Anthony Brown was signed and all that stuff, but that was a different staff. That was a different, the defensive backs coach. This staff is invested in him, and they said, we like what we see. We're bringing him back. So, I think if that is a tiebreaker between him and Anthony Brown for playing time, I think they're looking at it like, If it was the other way around, they'd probably say, let's don't pay him. We got Anthony Brown. We'll draft a couple.
I personally think he's a better player than Anthony Brown. That's my opinion.
I'm thrilled he's back. Like, some people were kind of like whining about the money. Like, it's not that much money by NFL cornerback standards. It's not a deal that you can't get away from. Like next year, if you want to, like he doesn't have to finish this deal if you don't want him to. He's a versatile guy. I think he's got the right mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy he's back.
Yeah, and they love him. I mean, they do. I mean, he nobody works out more than him. No one is trying to get better. I mean, he just needed somebody to have some confidence in him and say, hey, he's putting in all this work.
And
we believe in you. I think he can have a pretty good year.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right, we appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be back next week on Wednesday again. We'll get into a little more free agency talk, and we'll actually start moving the ship a little bit, maybe to some talk on the draft. We got about a month left before the draft. As of next week, it'll be about a month. So we'll start kind of spending a little bit of time talking about draft and start getting you guys ready for that. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, Amber Garcia, I am Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!